1 year after the last human breathes, the lights of New York City will still shine, until the final power station, unmanned, quietly goes dark. In this journey, we'll unravel what Earth might look like if, without warning, every single human vanished overnight. From silent cities slowly reclaimed by nature to animals reclaiming ancient ranges, and even the fate of satellites orbiting above. Each moment reveals a world that doesn't stop, but subtly transforms. So here's something to drift off with. If you weren't here tomorrow, what would outlast you? Your home? Your cities? Or perhaps the stories etched into the things you left behind? Chapter 1. Day 1. Stillness falls instantly. Imagine it's just past midnight. Somewhere, a street lamp flickers in the distance, timed by a city's electric pulse. A traffic signal turns from red to green, though no one is waiting to cross. Then, without warning, the entire species vanishes. No screams, no chaos, no goodbyes, just silence. In the first hour after humans disappear, the world continues almost exactly as before. Automated systems, timers, motors, sensors carry out their tasks, unaware their masters are gone. On every continent, planes fly along pre-programmed flight paths. Some will continue until they run out of fuel, veer off course, and crash quietly into uninhabited places. Trains glide across tracks. Coffee machines switch on. Sprinklers hiss onto suburban lawns. It's a world still in motion, but without intention. Yet even in this illusion of normalcy, something subtle begins to shift. Dogs left behind in homes begin to bark. First for attention, then from hunger. Windows glow from televisions left on, narrating to no one. The hum of refrigerators fills the quiet as circuits stay alive. But no footsteps echo in the halls. No hands reach for doorknobs. No eyes meet. Power stations hum steadily, for now. Nuclear plants engage in fail-safe protocols, shifting into automated cooling cycles, but most are designed with the assumption that someone, a technician, an engineer, will return in a few hours. When no one does, the countdown to failure begins. In hospitals, monitors beep steadily beside empty beds. But without human supervision, backup generators will eventually go silent. Life support systems will cease, though there is no one left to depend on them. Across the globe, electronic systems continue to feed data to servers. Email queues grow full. Bank transactions attempt to clear. Security systems send out silent alerts. The digital world functions in a sort of ghostly autopilot. But outside the walls, the organic world is beginning to notice something else. Birds fly lower over highways, sensing the absence of traffic vibrations. In the countryside, deer venture closer to fence lines, sniffing out the strange stillness. Domestic animals, confined to yards and homes, grow restless. Without food or freedom, some will not survive the first few days. Others, especially the more adaptable, will begin to change. The first 24 hours are the most deceptive. Everything appears untouched. And yet, the unraveling has begun. Water continues to flow from taps, for a time. But the people who maintain pumping stations are gone. The electric grid, without constant adjustments, starts to strain. Some areas powered by renewable sources like wind and solar will last longer. Others, especially those reliant on human-managed fossil fuel systems, begin a quiet descent into darkness. On the highways, vehicles remain idling where they were left. Intersections, parking lots, roadside stops. Many will eventually run out of fuel. In some places, engines overheat. In others, they stall quietly under the sun. Airports are perhaps the eeriest. Planes grounded, luggage carousels rotating pointlessly, gate announcements continuing over empty terminals, cycling endlessly without response. And then, night falls. Without the human glow, parts of Earth grow darker than they've been in centuries. In urban areas, streetlights continue to shine, but without maintenance, entire grids begin to flicker and fail. Sensors misfire, backup systems kick in, but only for so long. A hush settles in, a kind of silence that only occurs when the world is no longer being watched. It is not dramatic. It is not violent. It is simply absence. And in this absence, the earth begins its slow process of breathing without us. Tomorrow, it will notice more.
Chapter 2. Within weeks, nature reaches and 3 weeks have passed. The cities still stand, but they are no longer cities in the human sense. They are empty frameworks, quiet, unmanned, and already beginning to yield. Inside homes, food left in refrigerators has long spoiled. Without power, fridges and freezers have warmed. In kitchen sinks, dishes sit where they were last placed. Half-drunk glasses of water have evaporated slightly, gathering a faint ring of residue. Toothbrushes rest on counters, permanently paused in morning routines that will never resume. But outside, the transformation is quietly accelerating. Without constant oversight, most power grids have shut down. At first, it was a few rolling blackouts. Then, widespread failure. Power plants that once required human input to balance energy loads went offline. In many nuclear stations, emergency shutdown procedures have kicked in automatically. Backup generators for cooling systems have held steady, though only for as long as their fuel allows. Pumping stations that once brought water into homes and businesses are silent. Pressure within underground pipes has dropped. Faucets produce nothing. Toilets, no longer refilling, remain as they were left. And in the quiet darkness of abandoned basements, sump pumps stop running. Slowly, water begins to seep in. Urban areas, so carefully engineered to resist the forces of nature, begin to let go. Without regular maintenance, storm drains clog, leaves collect. Rain has nowhere to go. In subway tunnels beneath cities like New York, water starts to rise, first by inches, then by feet. Rats, sensing the shift, move upward into the streets. But even they are adjusting to this new world, where food is no longer reliably discarded by humans. Domesticated animals face harder odds. House pets, particularly dogs, begin to group together. Some escape through broken doors or windows. Others remain trapped, succumbing to thirst or hunger. The most resourceful form packs. Breeds once carefully nurtured for companionship must now rediscover ancient instincts. Large dogs fare better. Smaller breeds often do not survive. Cats adapt more readily. Feral by nature, they slip into the wild with surprising ease. In suburbs and cities, their population initially surges. Without spaying and neutering, they multiply quickly, at least until food becomes scarce. Farm animals meet a different fate. Chickens, pigs, and cows bred for human use struggle to fend for themselves. Chickens may thrive briefly, scattering into woodlands. Pigs, highly adaptable, can revert to a feral state. Within months, their appearance changes. Snouts elongate, fur darkens, and their behavior shifts. Cows, less agile and more vulnerable, often fall prey to predators or simply perish from lack of care. Zoos are heartbreaking. Many animals, confined within enclosures, have no chance of survival without humans. In some places, automated feeders prolong their lives briefly. But as systems fail, the strongest escape, either through chance or the slow decay of barriers. In a few regions, exotic species such as big cats or primates may establish new territories, particularly in warm climates with abundant prey. And then, there are the plants. Grass grows tall and uncut in parks and lawns. Garden beds become wild tangles. In the absence of pruning, vines begin to creep along fences and up the sides of buildings. Tree seedlings, once cleared from gutters and cracks, now take hold. Each seed, drifting on wind or carried by birds, finds soil in places it was never meant to reach. In warmer climates, tropical plants spread aggressively. Kudzu overtakes rural homes in the American South. Ivy clings to the brickwork of English towns. In time, roots begin to wedge themselves into the smallest cracks of pavement and stone, applying slow pressure that concrete cannot resist. And it's not just the flora that expands, so do the sounds. The mechanical background hum of human life is gone. In its place are wind, rustling leaves, and birdsong. At night, the calls of nocturnal animals echo farther than ever before. Owls hunt without competition from passing cars. Coyotes trot down empty highways, no longer pushed to the periphery. Nature, often described as fragile, reveals itself instead to be patient. In just a few weeks, without conflict, it has begun to reclaim everything. Not with violence, but with persistence. The world does not mourn us. It simply continues adjusting around the absence. And while much remains intact, the balance is tipping. The first cracks in the human-built environment have appeared. Not enough to collapse towers or shatter roads, but enough to mark a shift. The world is exhaling. Quietly, slowly, it is beginning to take back what was borrowed. Chapter 3. Months later, cities start to decay. It has now been 6 months since the last footstep echoed through a hallway. The last voice was heard in conversation. The last light was switched off by a human hand. Cities, once monuments to our coordination and industry, now stand as empty sculptures, still recognizable but subtly altered. They are no longer places of motion and purpose. They are hushed arenas of entropy, where time moves gently, but relentlessly. The first to yield are the things we trusted the most. Roofs begin to leak, gutters overflow, choked with debris. Without maintenance, even the sturdiest structures suffer slow degradation. Paint peels under the sun, drywall warps in dampness. Wooden beams, long protected by constant care, now absorb moisture and begin to rot. In parking lots, asphalt blisters and cracks. Grass pushes up through fissures, bold and determined. In just half a year, roads begin to look different. Patches of green spreading like veins across gray surfaces. Elevators hang still in mid-shafts, doors rusting at the seams. Refrigerators have long stopped humming. Inside them, mold has bloomed in elaborate patterns. Food is decomposed into unrecognizable layers, becoming part of a new micro-ecosystem. Fruit flies, unbothered by human presence, multiply freely in kitchens. Cockroaches thrive in places once kept meticulously clean.
Glass windows remain largely intact, but they're no longer pristine. Rain leaves streaks. Dust settles on inner sills. Birds, emboldened by the quiet, collide with transparent panes more frequently, mistaking reflections of the sky for open air. Meanwhile, nature moves inward. With doorways unguarded and windows shattered by wind or fallen branches, animals explore the spaces humans once claimed as their own. Squirrels nest in attics. Raccoons take up residence in abandoned apartments. Birds build homes atop chandeliers and curtain rods. In many cities, it is the pigeons who inherit downtown. Vegetation infiltrates with the same quiet determination. Seeds carried by wind or birds settle in gutters and corners. With no one to trim or poison them, weeds become shrubs. Shrubs become trees. Walls are slowly cracked apart by roots that thicken over time. Fences buckle under ivy. Sidewalks rise and crumble. Skyscrapers, so dominant in human eyes, begin a long decline. Steel is resilient, but glass and concrete respond poorly to weather and time. In colder climates, water seeps into cracks, freezes, expands, and pries surfaces apart. What seems strong today is only temporarily so. The edges begin to soften. The corners blur. In underground spaces, the decay is more dramatic. Subway systems without pumps to keep water at bay are now flooded in many cities. The tunnels are dark rivers. Electrical systems are corroding. Mold grows unchecked on walls that were never meant to be damp. Rails rust. The silence is broken only by the trickle of water and the distant echo of settling infrastructure. Above ground, silence has settled into something more permanent. Street signs fade. Billboards slowly tear in the wind. Cars remain where they were left, but now their tires are deflated. Batteries long dead. Windshields hazy with grime. Some are covered with leaves or dust. Others have become nests. At airports, jetliners sit in rows. Their engines have not turned in half a year. Birds nest in their landing gear. Rodents make homes beneath their seats. The air smells faintly of rubber and old fuel. These great machines, once symbols of motion and ambition, are now immobile relics under open skies. In colder regions, the seasons bring new effects. Winter frost creeps through buildings unheated and unprotected. Pipes freeze and burst. Snow drifts against garage doors. Ice collects on floors. Come spring, the thaw reveals new damage. Collapsed ceilings, flooded basements, and the subtle shifting of walls and foundations. In warmer climates, the process is different, but equally relentless. Moisture breeds rot. Insects swarm. Mildew coats interiors. Wooden stairs sag and splinter. Ceilings darken with water stains. Furniture swells and collapses inward. And yet, amid this quiet undoing, there's a strange kind of balance. Nothing is truly still. Life is everywhere, adjusting, adapting, expanding. Cities are no longer organized by roads and zoning laws, but by the needs of animals and the instincts of plants. A city park becomes a forest. A grocery store becomes a den. An office becomes a roost. In the absence of humans, the idea of a city changes entirely. What remains is not destruction, it is transformation. These places are no longer human spaces, but ecosystems in motion. Colonized not by new tenants, but by the ancient rhythm of the earth reasserting itself. The concrete and steel resist for now, but not forever. Time, weather, and biology have no need to hurry. They know the humans are not coming back. Chapter 4. 5 years. In. Wildlife expands. 5 years have passed. Cities are no longer silent. They are alive again, but with a different kind of life. The natural world has crept inward, not in a rush, but in a quiet, steady expansion. Roads are furred over with moss. Sidewalks vanish beneath grasses and brambles. Buildings still stand, but they now echo with bird calls and the shuffling of unfamiliar feet. Animals have returned. Not just the pets and pests that lingered in the first weeks, but entire species that had once been pushed to the margins by human activity. In North America, wolves step cautiously into neighborhoods once dominated by traffic and noise. Deer roam through shopping malls. Black bears wander city parks, drawn to fruit trees now thriving without pruning. Elk graze where parking lots used to gleam in sunlight. In the UK, red foxes have spread without competition, slipping through crumbled fences and into schoolyards now overtaken by weeds. In Eastern Europe, lynx and wild boar explore the ghostly remains of rural towns. Across Africa, elephants once threatened by poachers find that entire corridors of land have opened up. And in India, tigers quietly reclaim territory along abandoned railways. Without people, the boundaries that separated wild from civilized no longer exist. The animals do not distinguish between our buildings and their old forests. What matters is shelter, food, and safety. And our cities, once symbols of separation from the wild, have unknowingly become new habitats. Populations shift. Some animals flourish, others falter. Rats, once thriving on human waste, begin to decline in number. With no garbage collection, no restaurant dumpsters, and no subway system stocked with crumbs, the balance tips. In their place, more adaptable omnivores, raccoons, coyotes, jackals, move in and take over the scavenger role. Bird populations shift as well. Without artificial lights to confuse them, migratory patterns realign. Skies, once cluttered with planes and pollution, are quieter, clearer. Songbirds return in greater numbers. Owls find less competition for nesting space, and wetlands no longer drain for development. Cranes and herons thrive. In the oceans, life begins to rebound in ways that were once unthinkable. Fishing boats, now docked and forgotten, no longer scrape the sea floor. Coral reefs begin to regenerate in places where nets once dragged. Whale populations slowly increase. In coastal regions, marine mammals explore further inland, following rivers that now flow with less pollution. Dolphins appear in harbors. Seals sun themselves on quiet docks. In some areas, animals change not just behavior, but form. Feral pigs, now well established in many temperate zones, grow larger, more aggressive, and more suited to their new environments. Their appearance becomes indistinguishable from their wild boar ancestors. Dogs, once of pure breed and pampered lives, evolve too. Packs take on a new structure. Only the strongest and most cooperative survive. Their features blur into something more primitive. Sharper muzzles, longer limbs, darker coats, and while many of these animals are adapting to a post-human world, some are not native at all. Invasive species, once contained by human efforts, now spread unchecked. Burmese pythons in Florida, lionfish in the Caribbean, cane toads in Australia, all extend their reach. They upset local ecosystems, altering food chains and population dynamics. Some native animals are pushed further out. Others disappear altogether. But ecosystems are resilient. Over time, new balances begin to emerge. Predators rise where they were once extinct. prey populations fluctuate, then stabilize. Forests regenerate without logging. Grasslands spread into former industrial zones. Rivers meander more freely without concrete embankments to hold them. Beavers return in dam streams that haven't flowed naturally in centuries. Even the air has changed. With no vehicles, no factories, and no active agriculture, the atmosphere slowly cleanses itself. Greenhouse gases diminish. Air quality improves globally. In places that once choked under smog, the sky returns to its natural shade of deep blue. Temperatures begin to cool slightly. Seasonal cycles, once subtly warped, begin to realign with their ancient rhythms. In 5 years, Earth has not simply healed. It has recalibrated. But it does not go back to what it was before us. Instead, it becomes something new. A hybrid of wild rebirth and human residue. Forests that grow through metal. Animals that nest in our ruins. Rivers that flow through forgotten highways. And yet, in all this resurgence, there remains a quiet echo of our presence. The bones of our machines, the lines of our roads, the shapes of our cities beneath the green. Life thrives now, but it thrives around our outline. A world grown over our memory. The question is no longer what survives us. It is what remembers us.
Chapter 5. Decades pass. Steel bows, forests rise. 50 years have passed. No living human has walked the earth in half a century. And yet, in many ways, the planet has never been more alive. The skeletal remains of cities still stand, but they are no longer recognizable in the way we knew them. Glass has long since shattered. Metal has rusted to deep reds and browns. Concrete is fractured and flaked, overwhelmed by the slow but ceaseless insistence of roots and vines. Towers lean. Bridges crumble. Roads are no longer straight lines. They are suggestions, buried beneath layers of soil, foliage, and time. In temperate zones, forests have returned with quiet certainty. Saplings that took root in cracks have grown into towering trees. Their canopies block what sunlight once reached through windows. Interiors of homes and office buildings are now dim forests, carpeted with moss and loam. Ivy snakes through stairwells. Ferns erupt from tile floors. Rainwater, once diverted into gutters and drains, now flows freely down walls and through hallways. The suburbs have become overgrown woodlands. Shopping malls are indistinguishable from groves. The once pristine edges of human settlement blur into the landscape, no longer resisting the reach of nature. In tropical regions, the takeover is even more complete. Humidity, rain, and intense plant growth have reduced entire neighborhoods to green ruins. Wood has decayed entirely. Plastics, though still present, have broken into faded, brittle fragments. Metal beams twist and bend under the weight of tangled vines and shifting soil. In drear climates, time takes a different form. Here, the sun has bleached everything. Paint has long flaked away. Signs and lettering are ghostly remnants. Vehicles, desiccated and gutted, are filled with nests and sand. Without humans to irrigate or build, deserts have crept further outward, swallowing entire towns in slow, dusty waves. And yet, across all environments, the story is the same. The built world recedes, while the living world reclaims. Animals born generations after the last human disappeared now walk freely through what used to be city centers. They know nothing of us. Elephants traverse highways split by tree roots. Bears hibernate in the remnants of cabins. Birds nest in the hollow shells of airplanes. The physical imprint of our existence remains, but the memory does not. Some of our most enduring creations fare differently. Stone monuments, carved from granite or marble, persist longer than most materials. The Great Pyramids, the statues of Easter Island, and portions of the Great Wall still stand, albeit weathered. Concrete, where reinforced poorly, crumbles. But where stone was used without reliance on steel or rebar, structures endure. silent markers of a vanished civilization. In certain places, the ruins achieve a kind of accidental harmony. Aqueducts feed wild rivers. Collapsed buildings create habitats for lizards, bats, and foxes. Parking garages become cliffs for birds. Steel skeletons of towers serve as massive, elevated perches for owls and hawks. The human world no longer dictates the rules. It has become substrate, framework for new growth. Our most toxic legacies linger the longest. Plastics, degraded into microfragments, still drift through oceans and soils. Radioactive materials, safely sealed in some places, have breached in others due to corrosion and time. In former industrial zones, certain chemicals persist in groundwater. These silent dangers remain, but they are gradually diluted, buried, and broken down. The earth is remarkably patient. It does not erase, but it softens. It buries, it decomposes, it reworks. In the oceans, coral reefs, free from chemical runoff and fishing nets, have surged back to life in many places. The cacophony of whale song returns to deep waters. Coral that had once bleached in despair now glows with color. Fish populations bloom, uninterrupted by trawlers or sonar. In the atmosphere, greenhouse gases have stabilized. Carbon dioxide levels, once spiked by centuries of industry, have begun to decline. Forests, grasslands, and oceanic plankton absorb what they can. The air cools incrementally. Weather patterns, once pushed off balance by human intervention, begin to find their own rhythm again. And in the soil, the story is similar. Earthworms thrive. Fungi flourish. Microbial communities, so vital to the health of ecosystems, rebuild complexity where agriculture once reduced it. Fields once tilled by machines are now prairies. Orchards revert to woodland. Earth's surface becomes once more the domain of natural succession. Still, among the plants and animals and silence, there are relics. Books turned to pulp, spines curled and brittle. Phones, useless and dark, buried beneath leaf litter. Shoes with soles, still intact. Artificial satellites orbit overhead, many dead, a few still blinking in silence. Their trajectories eventually decay. Some will burn in the atmosphere. Others will fall. The night sky has changed too. Without light pollution, stars blaze again. Constellations that were once difficult to see with the naked eye are now clear and bright. The Milky Way arcs across the heavens without competition from city lights. Only the wind moves now, through trees, across oceans, between ruins. 50 years have passed and still the earth goes on. It did not collapse. It did not mourn. Simply changed direction. And in that shift, it reminds us of something both humbling and profound. The earth does not need us, but it does remember us. Chapter 6, Centuries Later, Earth's Quiet Memory. 100 years have slipped away. The world, now entirely without humans, has become a place both familiar and foreign. The slow hand of time has reshaped the planet's surface, yet traces of humanity endure, faint, fragile echoes woven into the very fabric of the land. Stone monuments have softened. Wind, rain, and the growth of moss and lichen have worn inscriptions into near invisibility. Once mighty buildings have crumbled to their foundations, reduced to rubble that soil and roots steadily reclaim. Cities where once millions bustled have faded into ghostly outline. From the air, they appear as faint scars, circular depressions, patterns of vegetation denser or thinner than their surroundings, where concrete and metal once ruled. In many places, new forests cover what were once sprawling suburbs. Ancient trees, their trunks thick and gnarled, rise where houses and highways stood. These woodlands, vibrant and full of life, hum with the same ancient rhythms as forests untouched by human hands. In deserts, sands have swept across remains of roads and towns, burying them beneath shifting dunes. Occasionally, fragments of rusted metal or glass peek through, glinting briefly in the sun before the wind claims them again. The oceans hold their own secrets. Sunken ships, lost ports, and submerged cities, though largely erased from memory, remain as reefs for fish and coral. The slow tides of erosion and sediment conceal what once was, while life flourishes anew. Creatures once rare or endangered now roam freely. Wolves run through valleys where highways once crisscrossed. Eagles nest in the ruins of high-rises. Beavers dam streams in places where concrete once restrained water. The wild world pulses on, full of energy and renewal. But even as life thrives, the planet carries subtle marks of humanity's past. Microplastics circulate in oceans and soils. Heavy metals lie deep beneath forests. Radionuclides, scattered by accidents long forgotten, still persist in some pockets. These remnants do not define the planet, but they are threads woven into its story. And what of the skies? Without human interference, the atmosphere has returned close to pre-industrial levels. The air is clear, the climate more stable, yet altered forever by the centuries of change before. Stars shine brightly in the unpolluted night, untouched by artificial lights. Satellites, long dead, have mostly burned up or fallen, their silent journeys ended. In the end, the Earth has neither rejected nor embraced humanity. It has merely continued. Life adapts and evolves. Ecosystems flourish. Rivers carve new paths. Mountains wear slowly away. The planet remembers, not with anger or regret, but as a quiet archive, a palimpsest of all that has passed. 100 years without humans has changed the world beyond recognition. Yet beneath the green and the growth, beneath the silence and stars, our presence lingers, soft, subtle, and deeply woven into the history of Earth. And in that memory lies a gentle reminder. The planet is resilient. It endures. It transforms. And in its vast patience, it waits for what comes next. Chapter 7. 1,000 years later, nature's renaissance. A millennium has passed since humans vanished. 1,000 years, a brief moment in geological time, yet long enough for Earth to reshape itself anew. The planet no longer bears the unmistakable stamp of human industry. Instead, it wears a cloak of flourishing ecosystems, vast and intricate, where life has reclaimed every corner once claimed by humanity. Cities have disappeared almost entirely. Stone and metal relics, worn thin by time and weather, lie buried beneath thick layers of soil and vegetation. Only fragments remain, some partially exposed foundations, the faint outlines of roads now crisscrossed by roots and wildflowers, and the occasional arch or column swallowed by forest. Mountain seeds once scarred by mines and quarries have healed. The jagged edges are softened by centuries of erosion, cloaked in forests that thrive in the absence of human disturbance. Valleys once dotted with farms have become meadows and wetlands, alive with birdsong and the murmur of streams. The seas have transformed too. Without fishing fleets or pollution, marine life has rebounded spectacularly. Coral reefs, vibrant and teeming, stretch across vast underwater landscapes. Giant whales swim through clearer, quieter waters. Fish populations are robust and diverse, their numbers uncountable. Seabirds nest in thriving colonies where ports and docks have crumbled to sand and stone. On land, animals roam freely. Many evolved over generations. Species once endangered have recovered, sometimes changing subtly in form and behavior, adapting to new environments free from human pressures. Apex predators, like wolves and big cats, rule landscapes without contest. Herbivores graze on open plains and forest clearings, their movements shaping ecosystems as they always have. Invasive species introduced by humans have either integrated or been outcompeted by native flora and fauna. The natural balance, once fragile, now pulses with renewed vitality. The climate has stabilized into a new normal. Without human emissions, greenhouse gases have gradually decreased. Temperature fluctuations have evened out. Rainfall patterns, once disrupted, flow more predictably. Seasons return with dependable rhythms, allowing ecosystems to flourish in harmony. Yet, even after 1,000 years, subtle reminders of humanity's existence endure. Microscopic plastics still cycle through oceans and soils, slowly breaking down but far from vanished. Certain heavy metals and synthetic compounds linger in the earth, locked deep in sediments and layers of rock. Our satellites, long deorbited or burned in the atmosphere, have left traces in the night sky, faint, lingering artifacts of our brief time among the stars. But these traces are faint, whispers against the roaring chorus of life. The earth has embraced a renaissance, a world where nature's resilience and creativity shine brightest. The story of humanity, once dominant and disruptive, has become a quiet chapter in the vast unfolding saga of life. And in this endless unfolding, the planet reminds us, life endures beyond us. Change is inevitable, but growth is eternal. And the Earth, patient and persistent, continues on, waiting for the next page to turn. Conclusion. The last whisper of us. As 1,000 years have passed, humanity's physical presence has all but vanished. But the Earth continues its quiet symphony, steady, patient, and full of life. Our cities, once bustling with noise and movement, have become memories etched into the landscape. Yet life, in all its forms, has adapted, flourished, and transformed what we left behind. Forests rise where concrete crumbled, animals roam where highways once stretched, and oceans teem where ships once sailed. This imagined future is not one of ruin or despair, but of gentle transformation, a testament to the resilience of the natural world. It is a reminder that Earth's story does not depend solely on us. The planet has its own rhythm, its own timeless cycles, and in its vastness, it patiently weaves new patterns from the remnants of the old. So as we drift off to sleep, let us find calm in the thought that life will continue, change will persist, and nature will reclaim its place, softly, slowly, beautifully. And in that peaceful certainty, we can rest.